Starting very shortly, and I'm going to close that window now. I know that that's gone live. We're streaming across YouTube and LinkedIn and live over Riverside, and I can see people coming in, joining the webinar. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We have a ton to get through this morning, so I'm going to get started, and as people join later, they can catch up, and I'll be sharing the recording and the slides later on. So, I am Matthew Steber, CEO at Articulate Marketing. This picture I had Sora produce using a combination of Vermeer's Geographer and a computer running ChatGPT. And for a long time, I thought this was the fun, best use of AI, but there are better uses, and we're going to cover them today. There is no live chat for various reasons on this webinar, and I apologize for that. If you have any questions or you have any follow-up, I'd love to hear from you. My email address, matthew@articulatemarketing.com, is there. Please email me. I'm happy to engage in any correspondence. We can set up follow-up calls and things like that. So without any further ado, let's get started. So when I was at university back in the dark ages, I bought a copy of this book. I still have it. It's called The Policeman's Beard is Half Constructed, and it was written by a computer program called Ractor. And I think there is a direct linear relationship between Ractor and ChatGPT and all the other large language models. And I've always been fascinated by AI and the role that technology might play in our lives. I am a total geek. I left university to make computer games for 10 years, and then I've been doing technology marketing ever since. So that's where I'm coming from. I am a writer, so I feel also a little bit threatened and excited by what AI can do and is doing in that world. Overall, though, in a world of either fear-mongering or almost absurd levels of hype, I would describe myself as a people-first AI pragmatist. So this is where I'm coming from. The other place I'm coming from is that I run a marketing agency, and we help technology companies that help people lead healthier, happier, more sustainable, flourishing lives. And we do that with brand web strategy, websites, copywriting, automation, and AI. So this is the job that I do and the experience that I have. If you need any help with any of these things, you know, we're always available, and would love to hear from you. So today's webinar is going to cover 6 strategies that I think help you if you want to have a people-first AI strategy. And within each of these things, and I'm focusing especially today on the thought leadership piece and getting found by AI search tools, because those are the questions I get asked the most. So they'll be the bulk of today's talk. But in each of these strategies, I want to share practical tips and experiences and things that we've done that you might find useful in your work. There's also a little bit of horizon scanning and a little bit of opinionating in there as well. So hopefully that will add a little bit of flavor to it all. But that's the agenda for this talk. There is a lot to get through in just under 30 minutes, so I'm going to press on. So the first thing I get asked by most of our clients over the last year: how do we get found by AI search tools? And I think they're making a fundamental category error with this, because AI large language models are not like Google in the sense that you can't game them. It's not about keywords. It's not about getting found so much on that. It's a little bit more by analogy like PR. It's about being cited and sourced by those AI models if you want that to happen, so that your content, your business is seen in a positive, favorable light. There is some evidence that traffic from AI language models, large language models, and from Google AI overviews does result in longer visits. So it is potentially, when people do click through, it's a more engaged visit. So that's a small silver lining. But overall, what is happening, the trend that we're seeing, is zero-click instant answers, not only on Google, but also just people getting the answers they want to questions from ChatGPT and Perplexity and all the other things, rather than having to go and search and sort and find different answers from different people. So if you are, particularly if you are answering questions about health or practical things like that, that sort of traffic has dropped dramatically. And there was a very interesting article in The Economist yesterday about that. I think there is, it's long overdue, but the idea that you're doing keyword optimization and gaming Google to be found for, I don't know, environmental monitoring or health management software or something, that's sort of, there is still making sure that your content is talking about things that people are searching for and answering people's needs and using the language they use, but keyword optimization is I think a diminishing game. However, do not bet against Google. They have a dominant market position, they have huge resources, and they are generating close to 6 trillion searches a year. They are answering 6 trillion questions. So they have extraordinary insight into the world of what people are asking about. So I still think there is a role for Google optimization. I think there is a role for content optimization for AIs. I think there is still actually some big piece of search engine optimization, but with a different spin and a different sort of direction to it. But if you actually look at it objectively, AI models are just not sending traffic to people's websites at the same scale and level that Google still does, and was doing. Reddit sends more traffic, more referral traffic to websites according to RFs, and nobody is coming to me asking for a Reddit optimization strategy. So the goal here is, and I'm quoting Gartner, your target is not the blue link anymore, it's being the source that the AI quotes when someone asks a question. That's the mission, okay? So how can you do that? There are quite a few things that we think are worth doing. No regrets moves and tactics. Somebody said, I think it might have been Rand Fishkin, but probably misattributing that quote. Even Google can't tell you how its AI generates its answers on a sort of query by query basis. The idea that search and indeed AI is explainable is also not possible these days. So the first thing I strongly recommend, and this takes a few minutes and it's a complete no regrets move, it's an easy thing to do, is make sure that your sitemap for your website is uploaded to Bing Webmaster Tools, right? If you're already on Google Search Console, it's literally a couple of clicks to do this. Bing is the search engine that ChatGPT uses, so it's a completely safe bet to do that, and you might get some of the 5% of search traffic that goes through Bing anyway by doing this. So easy, quick, no regrets. Second thing, and I'm drawing on various recommendations here from Bain, from HubSpot, from our experience. You want to optimize your content for AI crawlability. So that means using structure and text and so on. I'll talk a little bit about that in the next section to make it easy for AIs to understand. Those techniques are also good to make it easy to read for human beings, and also good for regular Google optimization. So again, no regrets move. You don't have to do anything that's not best practice already, but you do need to be doing it. Most AI overview answers are sort of informational. So the sorts of things that are going to be picked up by AIs are information and answers to questions. So make sure your content is informational, answering questions, rather than, I always have said, talk about your potential customers' issues, needs, questions, and problems in their language rather than your products and services in your language. And I think that is more valid and important than ever before. I make a very specific point about conversion. So we've made a business over many years of inbound marketing and building blog posts that are open to read and gated content behind landing pages. And the advice of Bain, and I think this is being borne out by our experience, and it's the direction we're heading in for our own marketing and our own website slowly as we refactor all our landing pages, is actually to make your best content public, right? So if you've got the best guide on your website to brand strategy or website design or something, don't hide it behind a landing page. Make it available for the LLMs to scan. And then for lead capture, you can offer people who are reading it the ability to download it as a PDF if they want to. So the value exchange there is give us your email address and we will give you this in a format that may be more convenient for you, rather than give us your email address and we might give you something that you might find valuable or not. The screenshot here is from one of our guides about SEO. This, apart from a couple of webinars, this one included, this blog post with the form to download the long blog post as a PDF is one of our best converting offers. So actually you can still use content to drive conversion, but you just change the value exchange and make the best content available. Okay. The next thing I think is also a good thing to do is to see how you are being cited, if you are being cited in LLMs, in large language models. And there are now a number of tools that do this. HubSpot has an AI search grader that's free for use. RFs, which is our SEO tool of choice, also now is giving AI citation data. And you can also just go to an AI and ask it questions and see what it comes up with. What you're looking for here is kind of how does it present the information? What sources is it citing? And what is it looking at your competitors? Are they coming up? What other sources are Google AI overviews and things suggesting? So try and build that sort of understanding of search intent and questions. This is also good for figuring out what content you should be producing and how you should be positioning. So it's a good thing to do. I think that the strategy here is to start doing AI-minded skyscraper versions of content that AI overviews and LLMs are citing if they're coming from competitors. So still aiming to be the best source on the internet for this and for the information you want to be found for. There's data from RFs that shows that Reddit and Quora are highly cited. I mean, it's a big proportion of answers on Google AI overviews. So if you are thinking about your social media strategy, orient it towards these sort of Q&A discussion forums. You have to adjust your strategy a little bit. These are not places where you just go and sort of publish and shout in the marketplace with a megaphone. You need to be engaging and you need to be playing by the rules of the sites. But this would be a good way to be found on key questions that you want to be looked for, and in any case, it's also a good insight. Rand Fishkin, I know, and this is a definite sort of citation. He says you've got to go to where your audience is. So if they're on YouTube, if they're on social media platforms, if they're on Reddit, if they're on Quora, if they're on industry forums, go there and engage with them there. Don't necessarily rely on them coming to you. Okay. And the last AI SEO, AI optimization strategy that I'm recommending, and again, it's a relatively low technical effort, it's not zero effort, is to explore, sorry, this is the penultimate recommendation, sorry, I've got one more, is to explore and implement XML schema markup and featured snippet optimization. These are well-tested SEO tactics to try and capture that sort of snippet at the top of the answer, top of the Google search, by making your content, a variant of your content, machine readable in some way by putting some structured data to it. So I strongly recommend doing this and reviewing your content to see if there are things like FAQs or top 10 lists or things like that that can be represented in a schema markup code. The last AI SEO tactic that I'm recommending in this section is around this LLM-s.text. So in website development, you will have a robots.txt that gives some direction about what you will and won't allow to scan your site, or what you wouldn't like to scan your site. So you can block Google bots, for example, or encourage them. And you are also going to publish you should be publishing a sitemap XML that has, here are all the pages on my site. So those are sort of two long-standing machine readable guidance for search tools. LLM-s.text is the third one. It's a provisional standard. And what it does is it allows you to publish a markup page of text that highlights the best content that you've got, with the intention, the hope that AIs are going to use this as a way of sort of spidering and engaging with your content. Anthropic Publish one of these, but there is no evidence, and there are claims and counterclaims about whether any of the AI tools are actually using it. So it's worth investigating, it's worth looking at. There are links here for tools that will help you do it and understand it. I would say it's probably worth a day of somebody's time to just do this, but not more than that. Okay. So my biggest recommendation for getting found on AI tools and using AI in a human-centered way for marketing is around creating compelling original thought leadership. And there is an AI role in this. And I think I want to start with the same recommendation I've been making for 25 years, which is, good content is good marketing. Talking to your potential customers about their issues in their language is good marketing. HubSpot's AI search guide is recommending these 4 things, which I think are good practices for content in any sense. Conversational clarity, so write in a way that is easy to read. So you're looking at things like Fresh Kincaid reading ease scores being lower so that AIs can understand the text. That is also good value for readers. Just make your content accessible and readable. Jacob Nielsen's been talking about this for a long time, but sort of scannable, concise, non-hyped language. So conversational clarity. Second thing is make sure that your content is authoritative and has a lot of sources and links and quotes in it. And there is data, which I'm citing here, that says if you have lots of links in your content that authenticate the data, that makes it more likely to be found. It is also the right thing to do for good, high quality content. Long form but structured means short pieces are less valuable. This has also always been true for SEO, but 1,500 words, 2,000 words of definitive, authoritative content with a clear hierarchy of heading 1, heading 2, and so on. And lastly, and critically, user intent alignments. Understand what people are searching for, what they're asking, what they're looking for. So that goes back to using these citation tools and doing your own sort of skyscraper investigation of how you and your competitors are being found on AI tools. On the flip side, avoid AI slop. So happily so far, it looks like, and RFs have done research across sort of 900,000 pages of content, or 90,000 pages, I forget, a very large amount of content recently published, and only 2 or 3% had been written exclusively by AI without any human intervention. About 70%, as you'd expect, had some AI input of some kind that was detectable by their testers, and the rest was appeared to be fully human content. So what does this mean? People are using AIs to help write their content? Well, of course, but we're not quite drowning in the tidal wave of completely robotically generated text. Google is specifically setting out to penalize that. Their quality raters guide has been recently updated to say that if the main content is clearly AI generated, it will be penalized. And I think that there are things that you can do with thought leadership content that AIs cannot do. So interviews, original research, proprietary data, genuinely original thought, opinions, expert insight. So if you've got a business of expertise, use that to say something that an AI can't, because all an AI can do is synthesize data that it's already scanned and processed. It's only able to regurgitate, it can't originate. So avoid AI slop and span. It is not at all a successful strategy just to use AI to spit out hundreds and hundreds of random blog posts in the hope of sort of spamming the SEO system and getting found out. That will be punished and doesn't seem to work. And even if you were to do it, and even if it were to be mildly successful or wildly successful, what happens when people come to the site and they very quickly will realize that your site is just populated by all this guff. So all of this points in the same direction, in my opinion. However, AI has a real role in the writing process and in the creation of thought leadership. For example, it can be a very powerful tool to guide and accelerate and simplify that initial research phase. In my opinion, if you take writing as a whole, half of the effort that goes into writing is research and planning. interviewing and digging around and really making sure that you're writing the right thing. So a lot of people out who are not writers think writing is sitting in front of a keyboard or sitting in front of a blank sheet of paper and being creative with words, and that's about a sixth. Writing, the actual writing, is about a sixth of the work of being a writer. So if you take the exact same amount of time that you are going to spend researching, and you can do more research in the same amount of time, and you can find new and interesting sources and insights, that's a really powerful use of AI. And we've built in Articulate this tool called Elizabeth using a custom GPT in ChatGPT, where we have embedded everything that one of our expert strategists knows and has researched about the health tech industry and the life sciences industry. So it's embodied and enriched with a lot of material, and then also with what we know about that sector and kind of the types of personas and things. So it's got a lot of knowledge of Articulate in it, but now that knowledge and that insight is available to other people in the business who might be writing content. So these kinds of custom GPTs can be really powerful and accelerating. So that's one thing that you could do. If you're working inside a business and a marketing function, you could embed all the product literature about the business. You could embed everything about on the website. You could use all of that as a source. So again, you could research a topic much quicker. Second thing, if half of writing is research and 1/6 of writing is actually typing, tools like Grammarly can help with the writing and the punctuation and the spelling a little bit. But the last third is editing. And it is also a place where AI with careful thought can be used to take the same amount of time and make it more effective and more productive and better. So we've built another GPT where we have uploaded the very carefully crafted tone of voice, messaging, target personas, target ideal client profile, and the company business plan for Articulate into a GPT, and then you can run a search. You can upload a piece of text and say, can you give me some suggestions for improving this? And it's not just kind of giving you random sort of generic writing improvement. It's referencing against the brand strategy, against the tone of voice. So we help companies develop all of these things. So we're now looking to build this kind of custom GPT for our clients as a way of delivering, or one manifestation of that brand strategy work we do. So if we're developing personas and tone of voice and messaging, kind of giving it to people so that it can be deployed across their business for people who aren't necessarily professional writers or marketers and yet still want that feedback. This little screenshot I put in here is the feedback that this tool gave me on the email that I sent out to invite you all to this thing. And the feedback was really good. So it's market tested, and since you all have all had an email from me about it, I thought it would be interesting to share the feedback from our editing tool. Okay. So there is room for AI to help make content much better and still rely on human skill and experience and knowledge and embed that. It's not so much, in my opinion, about doing the same work in less time. It's about doing better work in the same time, and perhaps also relieving writers of some of the tedious things that they do and giving them. I think the New Yorker has the best strategy. They have a whole army of editors and then lots and lots of freelance writers, and behind every good writer there's a good editor and fact checkers. I think AI can do some of that functionality for businesses that can't afford a New Yorker level editor. Okay. Strategy 3, I'm going to start accelerating now. We're a little bit over halfway through this, and I've spent most of my time on those things because I think those are the most commonly asked questions. But the next thing that we've learned is, again, around reducing sort of trivial or frustrating or tiresome work and making expert, experienced people more productive and effective. The first thing is we have HubSpot. We're a HubSpot partner, so we're using that for our own marketing. They have now published a connector for ChatGPT, so you can use deep research in ChatGPT 4.5, and it can interrogate all the data in your HubSpot portal. So you can use it to, for example, go, I want to find companies of this size in this geography who've expressed some interest in our content, and I want to find them within 20 miles of our office so I can ring them up. I want a report about what content is the most effective at influencing bottom of funnel conversions. And it can just go and interrogate the data, and it will come back with surprisingly specific insights, and we can then use those to go and do further research. I would not yet rely on it to give me a definitive answer, but I would definitely look to this integration to give me initial research directions. And what I would say is serendipity, so finding things that maybe I wouldn't have otherwise thought to look for. It's a bit like having a junior write a report in conjunction with a data scientist. So not a replacement for human judgment, curiosity, or analytical skill, but fresh perspectives, faster analysis, and serendipity driven by your actual data in HubSpot. It's a really amazing tool. I'm really impressed with it. Another thing that we found that's been incredibly productive and improving efficiency and also helping us humanize a little bit is these AI meeting note takers. So we've experimented with Fathom, a little bit with Granola, which is an iPhone app that you can actually use in live meetings to record and transcribe. We're settling up provisionally on using Notion AI meeting tools. That's a very new release in Notion, but we use Notion for everything else. It just allows us in a meeting, like a project management meeting or a creative meeting, to look at the other people on the camera and pay attention to them, knowing that we don't have to take 1,000 notes because we're going to record the meeting and we're going to get an AI summary out of it. Now, the summaries are not perfect. And if you don't know they're written by an AI, they can appear much more definitive and convincing than, but if you're in the meeting and you're just looking for an aide-memoire, perfect. I just really like that liberating feeling of being able to pay more attention to other human beings in meetings and webinars, in meetings and conference calls. So AI meeting note takers. The next thing that we found really, really interesting is HubSpot Smart Properties. This allows you to express a query in natural language and then have HubSpot use that query to populate a structured data field in your data, say a company or contact record. So for example, we use this query to try to classify the tens of thousands of companies in our database in terms of their ideal client profile, and it literally just goes and looks at their website, applies this query, and then selects a drop-down menu if it thinks that it's a health tech or a sustainability company. Testing against a known population of companies in our database, it did really well. I mean, there were no false positives. There were a couple of marginal calls that if a human being had said, yeah, they're in this category, I'd have gone, well, they're not technically, but I could understand why you're putting them in there, and that sort of makes sense. But about 90% of the ones it categorized were spot on. Remarkable, because if you had a human being do that, they'd spend days and days and days going through websites and trying to classify those companies. Last productivity tool, here I am giving a webinar. Riverside is going to transcribe this. It's going to allow me to do editing in the text and turn that into edited video. So if I made a flub along the way here, or I wanted to remove ums and ahs, or one of the dogs came in and disturbed me, I can just edit that out by just editing the text, which is amazing. And then it will spit out social clips and show notes and things. And I run podcasts for a couple of our clients. And having that productivity means that we don't have to spend I don't have to spend a day after each webinar or each podcast editing and producing social clips and writing transcripts and things. So hugely productive, and it lets me focus on what I like doing, which is talking to people and interviewing people and finding out about the wonderful world of data or open source intelligence or the various podcasts I do, or delivering these webinars for you. Okay. One slide on this. I think it's just really helpful to remember that these large language models have an appearance of intelligence, and they are getting remarkably good, but it is still a stochastic parrot. It is still effectively a statistical regurgitation of vast volumes of pre-existing information. It is not actually intelligent, possibly. There are other risks that I've referred to in the past, and you'll be familiar with these. I think there is a growing risk of legal issues A US court, for example, has ordered that OpenAI retain all ChatGPT logs, regardless of whether they're deleted or temporary, for potentially legal purposes. And so if you've ever asked ChatGPT a personal question or a medical question or something, somewhere a US court might have access to that, even if you think it's private and deleted. And I think that's just the one of, I'm sure, many more controversies and things. I think the recent extraordinary revelations about Grok make it very clear that these large language models are susceptible to interference and manipulation and sort of editorial guidance or misguidance, if it's Elon Musk, and can produce very scary, dangerous results without care and attention. And I think large companies, I think you've seen social media companies, for example, very quick to abandon their regulation of bad content. And I suspect the large language models, we need to be very careful about bias and unstated bias and so on. And I'm waiting for the first legal action against a large language model or their clients over misuse of copyrighted material. I wonder whether one day there'll be a reverse class action against not OpenAI or one of those large language models, not picking one out in particular, don't sue me, will be everyone who's used it to create content will get a sneaky letter from a lawyer saying you've breached our copyright by using this tool to produce this content, and we've seen it on your website. We'll see. So do not be mindful. And I think the critical danger here, in my opinion, is that we just lose our source criticism and our ability to analyze information and our ability to go back to the source and kind of abandon our critical faculties. And I think there's evidence, and I've cited Microsoft research here, that is already happening. And therefore, I appreciate now I'm slightly overrunning. I'm coming to my peroration. I will get through these last few points very quickly, probably overrun by about 5 minutes. Apologies. If you need to go, I totally understand. You are going to need an AI policy. You are going to need user training. You are going to need careful technical, legal, and HR oversight. It isn't something that you can easily turn a blind eye to. At some point in the next few months, I think we'll be publishing our AI policy for other people to use on some sort of shared basis. There are others out there. That's part of the puzzle, but think about it now. Our AI policy starts from a number of principles, and I think leadership and management need to be communicating and settling these principles now and using them to navigate the tools that are available and how people use them. I think if you allow bad practices or errors to sneak in, it's going to be much harder to change the direction of the ship later. For writers and marketers on this call, and I know there are some, Grammarly authorship is a way, if you wanted to prove the genuine, I typed this out of my brain to the keyboard, and it might be useful for people to have this up their sleeve. It's a free tool, and it's worth looking at if proving that you didn't use AI is important to you. Okay, so what's next? The last 2 years since I did an AI talk webinar, huge amounts have changed. I think we're beginning to see some AIs having memory and tracking what you've said about them, so they learn about you. I think that's really interesting. I think we've seen this ubiquity of AI. Never make predictions about the future, but I'm going to. I think Google AI overviews and AI mode are going to be really important. I think that local and private AI tools are going to become not mass, but actually quite important for people who want to protect their privacy or want to be careful about how they use it. I think Apple need to get their act together, because they're my big hope for mass market private AI. I think really deep memory of remembering what you've told it could be extraordinary. In a way, we're only perhaps a year or two away from AIs that know you better than you know yourself, have a better memory of what you've said and done, and can therefore give you better advice. On the negatives, I think the biggest prediction for the next 2 years is enshittification. Right now, they're giving away all these tools and they're encouraging you to use it. They're trying to get the thing out there and widely used. OpenAI has hundreds of millions of users and most of them aren't paying for it. At some point, somebody is going to want to start making money out of it. And yeah, there are a few more sort of tinfoil hat concerns about this. I worry about the geopolitics of, you know, the Taiwan chip supply and things like that. But my main bets are deep memory, local private AI, and enshittification. I think those are the things to watch. So, lastly, and in conclusion, if you want to learn more, and I encourage you to research and dig into this yourself, I think the Marketing AI Institute is a really interesting resource if you want to be at the hype end of the spectrum. And for people on this call that you're interested in marketing, otherwise, why are you pitching up to hear me? So it's talking about AI for marketers, and I think well worth going and looking at. They've got lots of courses and resources and talks and things. I think that's a good place. There is a hype spectrum on this, and if you want the other end of the hype spectrum, the AI Con is well worth reading. I probably sit somewhere in the middle of those two extremes. But I think the most useful thing you can do is just go and experiment enthusiastically, build some custom GPTs, use these tools, see if they help, right? Start with, I've got this problem, can AI help me? And embrace it where it is appropriate and with pragmatism. That would be my recommendation. So, few of you left. Thank you for sticking with me. If you have any questions, please email me, matthew@articulatemarketing.com. But for now, thank you very much for joining me this morning. It's been a delight preparing and delivering this, and I am going to stop the recording now. Thank you very much. Goodbye.